Hello everyone, and welcome to this assembly and painting video for Kingdom Death Monsters starting survivor Zachary, the fourth and final starting survivor for my painting videos. And also, as of current, the last painting video for, well, survivor stand-ins, so singular model you can easily use as a player, because I've only painted 8 of them so far. I need to get around to more of those, because I have so many even already assembled. I digress, though. Zachary here is actually the only one of the 4 starting survivors that by my current standards of videos I would still post an assembly for because he's 5 or more pieces. He's not many more and they're not that big. Like, as you saw, his face was one and his hand holding the founding stone is another. Zachary showed a lot of complications, as you'll see over the course of this video, with the cloth and everything. I think I might have actually assembled him first, which is why the stone face base is there, and I didn't use that on any of those. I'm saving those specifically for the lantern armor, the dragon armor, and the green knight sets. So those 10 models, whenever I get around to them. Or really their legs, because they'll be all magnetized. Ha ha! I have problems and I'm crazy. Whee! I even tried to assemble it on there. I believe I end up prying it off camera or it doesn't stay on too well. And this is actually the reason why I don't keep them there. Not just the 10. They don't glue on that easily. At all. I would probably have to pin them in future, which, if not done right, will look really bad. And as you can see, the cloth ends up coming off. That piece, at least. The other piece does come off later, but I think it's more, I don't like how it looks, and I tear it off. So here it is with a normal base topper. Whee! Also, those aren't flat on the bottom, so you need to connect them just right with the glue. But yeah, otherwise that's the entire assembly. He's still pretty simple for KDM, and also for a lot of the later adapted models. And here we are on a painting. Again, as I've said in the other 3 starting survivor videos, I went from lightest to darkest skin tone, and Zachary here is the darkest of the 4, which is still a pretty pale skin tone. I would guess this is normal skin tone for Caucasian/white. I wouldn't really know. I'm super pale myself, so not like Alistair pale, but one of the 2 girls. I almost want to say this is tanned, but I know it's not. I will be looking into that more when I finally get around to painting the Survivors of the Sun. Well, Survivors, and possibly the set that is the Sunstalker set. I know it's not actually called that, but I don't want to get it wrong. Ha ha! But yeah, he also has the most surface area of flesh exposed. His legs aren't covered like Alistair's are, and I believe he is the tallest of the starting survivors, so just more of Zachary, even though he is probably at the same height with his head because he's got a wider stance than most of them. But just end up covering the entire model, or at least all the flesh. I end up being super careful around the beard, and then I'm just like, why bother? I'm going to paint it black to begin with. It does end up being brown. He is the brown hair character. And again, those kind of match with a lot of the tokens and the cards that come in the game for purpose of randomization or simplification, and I think that's the intent. And then, as usual, with the white cloth, it is just an off-white, very bright, light gray, which is what I use for base coating anything white. I even did it recently for a sea foam on a big, giant well kind of thing that had waterfalls. It makes for a really good... It looks white without other things compared to it, but it's not white, so that when you highlight things white, it just turns out so much better. It is a GW color. I can always list the name if people want me to. But yeah, I don't know why I end up being so slow on painting this. Again, my videos here are at 3 times speed, because otherwise this would be boring to watch. Ha ha! Regardless, yeah. So, founding stone ends up being dark gray. It's the same gray that I use for the base. I just have the tendency now to paint bases or large areas like that. Like, in retrospect, I probably would have done so with this flesh off camera. Maybe not his flesh. I know I recently did the Grim Kid Winchwoods, and when I recorded the second one of those, it was just done off camera for all of its bark. Then the orange for the base color of the lantern light itself, which, again, I love doing that as a darker color, then highlighting the color it's supposed to be onto it to make it so that that stands out more, rather than highlighting to an even brighter color than that to make it kind of vibrant and washed away. And as I said, his facial hair and, well, his hair in general gets painted black. Because I have never painted a dark-haired brunette, like not black brunette, but like a brown brunette. I don't know why they're both called brunette, whatever. Ever before. Honestly, before getting to KDM, I didn't paint a lot of things with hair, or at least hair exposed. A lot of things with helmets, or just, this isn't human to begin with, or is more reptilian humanoid, or something like that, or Tyranids. Haha, I used to paint a lot of Chaos Space Marines and Tyranids. But regardless, so I realized painting it black and then dry brushing it brown would actually make it come out a lot better. Just like with Dirty Blonde, it's paint it brown and then dry brush it yellow. It color. It's weird. At least when how we observe it and everything. But painting, it's extremely important thing. The black also gets used to paint the lantern, which you'll see here in a few seconds. Which I usually do because, again, the lanterns are a weird metal thing because they're kind of organisms. It's one of those, Poots has been very vague on it, and just like, and also some of it might be spoilers towards the end of the original campaign, and I mean the original version of the campaign, not the current end, because yeah, 1.5 added a whole another 5 lantern years and a whole end to it. But the same kind of thing still happens, but not like the same event still happens. It just isn't the end. I digress again. And then after this, I end up painting the cloth white because, again, I forgot it on the lantern itself. I don't know why that happens a lot, but thankfully I don't need to deal with it as much anymore because I haven't magnetized any lanterns outside of the starting survivor gear. Because, yeah, still working on magnetizing, about halfway done with the core game, but I digress. So, onto an ink wash, which I did a lot better job with this model for ink washing the flesh, in my opinion. Less dirty. I just did a lot better with, like, thinning it out and making sure that it didn't rest in a lot of areas. But also, the fact that he goes from a more medium range light flesh to a lighter light flesh ends up helping as well. So, it doesn't look like, it's as dirty. Although, again, I do kind of want them to look somewhat dirty. They are the starting survivors. Their eyes were caked in ink and everything. In fact, if you look at him beforehand, like right now, his eyes kind of look like googly eyes. Didn't care. Because, yeah, right there. Much better. Ha ha. But also, he's got a lot more tone muscles. Like, he's the one with six-pack abs. So I definitely want to make sure that a lot of the details are ink washed in, but also now I have a better ink wash for flesh. This would still be black, that is, what I use for the entire rest of the model. I don't know why I bothered ink washing the hair, because it's already black, but I've done that at times. Maybe to fill in some gaps, because ink is also really good for filling in spaces you literally just can't reach. And, it's the same color I use on the base, because I really don't like the base just being flat, unless it's actually literally flat, or I painted it black, which I do with a lot of War Machine Horde models, or at least the majority of them, front arc, but that's for that game. So, onto the dry brush, just the next lighter shade of flesh for, well, the flesh, and it doesn't take nearly as long, because dry brush always goes a lot quicker. I just dry brushed another model earlier today, said Witchwood, actually, that I mentioned earlier, and it was just like, okay, took half an hour for a model, probably 4 to 8 times the size of this. Whee! But yeah, so that's all the flesh. And then white itself is actually being used to dry brush the cloth. I don't forget to do the little lantern cloth, which I don't even know why that's there when they're always seen holding it by the ring on it, which again is a weird thing. The ring itself. A light gray being used for the stone, just like it's being used for the base. It doesn't really look too well on the base, never really does, but it still looks better than just a flat gray base. And then, speaking of what looks like gray, but doesn't end up looking like it towards the end, because it's not, brown for the hair. I've used it on later models to do the same thing. A lot of Cthulhu Death May Die models end up having a lot of different hair colors, not like anime-ish like this, but more natural hair colors. So I got a lot more practice on that later. And then for the lantern, which, simple highlight, and then the object source lighting, which came out really well on this, in my opinion. It didn't have to go too far, didn't end up using too much, but it had a nice surface area of that leg right there, as you can see, to just be able to apply it, as well as some of the under the wrist, because he is holding it with a semi-bent wrist because his arm's going out while his hand's going down. And that's the entire model. Again, last of the starting survivors for the core game. Or really in general, because that's all there is for the starting survivors, at least the static ones. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, feel free to press that like button. If you think somebody else will enjoy this video, feel free to share it. Either way, it'll help this video get seen more. If you didn't like this video, go ahead and press the dislike button. I won't mind, but please leave a constructive comment as to why, even if that's you don't like how I paint. Like, I'm always open to more advice. And also feel free to comment in general, such as, would you like to see more Kingdom Death Monster painting videos? I still have the expansion monsters that I've painted at least 2 of and are recorded, because obviously I do that at the same time. But I can also paint other things. One of the 8 Survivor-ish models that I painted, the White Speaker Death High model, was by request. But yeah, again, always open to those. Or would you like to see me paint other models from other games? Again, many to paint, including a lot of War Machine Hordes and just a lot of board game stuff in general. Also, would you like to hear me talk about Kingdom Death Monster more in general? Like, again, some encouragement to get back to my board game overviews earlier rather than later would always be great for, well, getting to those, but also the setting and reviews or how to plays, let's plays, which I want to get to all of those, but one thing at a time. And if you'd like to see more like this, be it more painting videos, my unboxing videos, or my board game overview videos, all 3 of which I try to do for Kingdom Death Monster, or anything else you might want to see on this channel, feel free to subscribe. Regardless, thank you for watching and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye!